Good evening, and welcome to the Waukesha County Green Team's presentation, Solar, Is It Right for Me? This presentation is part of our One Simple Act virtual series, a series where we bring sustainability topics directly to you in your own home. Tonight, we are really excited to welcome Dustin Sumner with Sun Badger Solar, a local solar installer here in Waukesha County. Welcome, Dustin.
Hi there. Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So the way this is going to work is Dustin is going to present for about 20 minutes. If you have questions for Dustin, you can either type them in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask Dustin directly. He said he does not mind being interrupted during the presentation. And if you have a question, chances are other people have the same question. So Dustin is going to go over some real basic solar information and really help homeowners decide if solar is right for them. And so, all right, without any further ado, you want to introduce yourself a little bit, Dustin?
Yeah. So my name's Dustin Sumner. I am the regional sales manager at Sun Badger Solar. So we are a smallish, we're growing every single day. Family-owned business located in Milwaukee. That's where our main office is. Right now, we do all of Wisconsin, we do all of Illinois, and we do Minnesota as well. By the end of the year, we are planning to have a branch in Missouri and hopefully Indiana. So yeah, just want to talk about solar, do a little bit of education on solar, what the industry looks like today, how it works, what homes are best suited for solar, which ones maybe are not that best of a fit for solar, and yeah, just kind of get you all educated, answer questions. I prefer if you did interrupt me, it gets me out of my flow. But overall, what I will load up right now is just a slide that we like to show people that are just learning about solar, kind of a breakdown of it. So we're Sun Badger Solar. Why would you invest in solar? Well, one of the first reasons is you would generate energy for your home. You're no longer having to burn coal for your energy, ultimately not releasing as much CO2. That's one of the main reasons. You're going to reduce your carbon footprint. You're going to lessen the strain on the grid, which is a big thing. I don't know if you are familiar with it or not, but the utility grid in America today is really crumbling. So one of the benefits of solar is that you lessen the strain, especially if you had a battery incorporated into your system. That's going to help with power outages. That's a common thing that we see in California. It's a big thing. Actually, all new constructions in California are required to have solar prefabricated onto the building. So you're going to see more of it. It's just now starting to break into the Midwest, and it varies from state to state, and we'll get into the details about that. So how solar works is we obviously put solar panels on top of your home. We don't only put them on the home. We can do ground-mounted structures. We can put them on barns. There's even an option to put them on a pole, which is elevated above the tree line. That's a very costly project, but it is possible to do. So everyone can benefit from solar. If you do not have available roof space, but you have acreage, chances are a ground mount could be put somewhere on that property. What happens is sunlight comes down, it hits the solar panels. The solar panels are comprised of cells, and the number of cells varies depending on the type of solar panel. But in essence, the light hits the cells, generates energy with the silicon wafers, that travels along a bus bar, and then feeds into your main conduit line. You have panels that are wired together, and they go through what's called an inverter. The inverter is going to take the DC current that the panels produce, and it turns it into AC. It's really the most important part to the system is going to be your inverter. One system can operate and act completely different from another one based on the type of inverter that we would install. And there's a lot of different options. Right now, what we'll talk about is just residential installs, because Most of you are probably considering it for your home or just interested in the details of solar. But when we're looking at commercial projects, the equipment is going to vary. I mentioned before that we're Sun Badger Solar. It's very important to go with a local company, not only because you're supporting your neighbors, you're supporting your community, but there's a lot of differences based on what state we're in. And in Wisconsin, it also varies based on where we are within the state, who our utility provider is. There's We Energies, there's Alliant, there's MG&E, there's WPS. Those are the major utility companies. They all have similar policies, but then there's small co-ops. Some of them are very good for solar customers. Some of them are not so advantageous for solar customers. So it all comes down to who's your utility provider and how is solar going to apply to you, because they all have different policies. And the main policy that we're considering is their net metering policy. If you've started the search into solar, I'm sure you've heard that word before. That's really what makes solar possible for the average consumer, is net metering. And I'll get into that in a moment once we get to another portion of the slide. Lots of different equipment that we can offer. Solar panels today do not look like what solar panels looked like 7 or 10 years ago. 7 or 10 years ago, they would have individual cells. Those cells would be wired together. There would be white backing sheet, a very noticeable solar panel, what you consider a conventional looking solar panel. Today, the equipment's so advanced, the technology is so advanced that you can get all black solar panels and they're still relatively, well, they're extremely efficient. They're a little bit less efficient than some of the other options, but they're very efficient for being an all black solar panel. And I'll get to a few photos of what those look like in a moment. That is going to be the typical choice for a residential property, especially if you're in a homeowners association. Sometimes they're going to require you to have an all black panel. This is our flagship panel that we offer. We offer about 5 different panels, but typically 80% of our installs go up with an all black option. We obviously have to mount it to your roof. When we do mount it to the roof, there's a leak protection that we offer for that attachment. And also the racking that we use is also all black. So you have black panels, black racking. Depending on the color of your roof, if it's a darker shingle, it blends in very well. Solar will actually also raise your property value. A lot of people think that when you put solar up, it's going to ruin the curb appeal for your property, the curb appeal for your neighborhood. That doesn't tend to be the case. Homes with solar sell 17% faster than homes without, and they sell for about 4% more than the listed price typically. Everyone has to purchase energy. We're all forced to buy it from a utility company. New homeowners are specifically seeking out energy efficient homes. And if it has solar already in place, it's a win-win for everyone involved. Right now, there is a tax credit. Today it's 26%, or we are expecting it to be 26%, I should say. And it is expected to reduce to 22% next year. I say expected because there is a bill right now in the Senate. It's called the Moving Forward Act. It's a $1.5 trillion infrastructure bill. If it gets passed, there will be an extension to the tax credit. But the industry as a whole is expecting it to get phased out. So if you come to a company like us, or you come to any installer in the state, they're going to quote you out with 26% tax credit. And being a tax credit, it's a 1-for-1 value. You would be submitting that on your 2020 taxes. It reduces what you have to pay into taxes. It does not reduce your taxable income. In addition to the tax credit, there are state rebates. In Wisconsin, we have one main state rebate. It's called Focus on Energy. I'm sure you've heard of it for energy efficiency improvements, maybe switching out LED lights, converting to a tankless electric water heater, many different rebates that they offer. This one is specifically for solar. most residential properties that are above 5 kilowatts are going to qualify for the maximum, and that's $500. So that's how it kind of works in Wisconsin. It varies. Like I said, Illinois has a different process. They have what are called SRECs, which are just renewable energy credits that are traded and bought by a third-party broker. And then in Minnesota, there's a performance-based guarantee or a performance-based rebate that is paid out by the utility company over a period of 10 years. So it varies drastically from where you are in the country.
Dustin, I have a question.
Yeah.
On your past slide, for the focus on energy, I saw that it said for south-facing roofs. So if you don't have those panels on a south-facing roof, do you not get the focus on energy credit?
Good question. No, that's not the case. So this slide is from previous in the year, just a little bit earlier in the year, where the focus on energy was drastically different. So last year it was a percentage of your job cost, and the amount that it equated to was related to the direction that it was facing. At the beginning of 2020, they changed that. They changed it to a dollar amount per kilowatt, and it started at $1,500. And then around April, it reduced to $1,000. And then about a month ago, it reduced to $500. So right now it's at $500 for the remainder of the year into 2021. At some point, it will be fully depleted or just unavailable for new constructions or for new installs. So you always want to try to get in while the rebate is available, because it can drastically change. We are considered a trade ally with Focus on Energy because we do such a large volume in the state of Wisconsin, but it changes drastically on us, and it can really change the numbers for people that are going solar. Usually there's a grace period. They let us reserve it. They give us a period of time to finish the installs that are on our books, but it is an ever-changing rebate. So on here it said $2,000. This is just because it's a slightly out of date slide, but it changes very, very quick. A lot of different ways too that you can go about funding or financing the project. Obviously, cash paying customers are going to get a lower install cost. They're not having to pay a financing fee. They're not having to pay an interest rate. But there are a lot of great loans that are available as well. So we have multiple loan providers that help with the loan process, and they are structured around the tax credit and around the state rebate. This was another little example of why you would want to go solar. But I want to jump off of this really quick and go into a little bit about the design and how we go about looking at your property and what is considered the perfect situation for solar and what is still a good location for solar, but maybe just not the most preferred location. So what we're looking at here is actually our design software that we use to generate the quotes and to generate the designs. On this one, I have 2 arrays. One is west facing, one is east facing. They will generate energy, but like you mentioned, last year they qualified for a lower incentive. This year that doesn't really matter, but what does matter is going to come down to the production of the system. So if we're looking at east and west, this is actually on my home right now, so it's not installed on it, but I just use it as an example. This is a very steep pitch. This is in Bayview, so it's around 45-degree pitch. When you're installing panels on that steep of a pitch and they're facing east and west, it's going to affect the production. So if you look at the bottom of the page, I don't know if you all can see that, we have a reading of what the capacity of the system is. This is a 7.8 kilowatt system. That's how all companies are going to size it. That's how you're going to compare one system to another. That's also how We Energies and your utility company is going to look at your system. If it goes over a certain size, it goes into a different bracket of systems, and that happens at 20 kilowatts. 7.8 kilowatts, I would say, is the average size that we install on a residential property in Wisconsin. That's typically what a single family home in Wisconsin is going to need to cover their energy usage. So you can see the system size, that's only talking about the number of panels multiplied by the wattage of each panel. And in this design, it's 24 panels. Each one is 325 watts apiece, gives us that system size. To the right is what the first year generation is going to be. What are these solar panels going to produce in the first year? And that's going to be right around 6,800 kilowatt hours. Kilowatt hours are the actual units of energy that you use at your property, that We Energies charges you for, and that your solar panels are going to produce and otherwise offset from what you have to purchase. So this system, 7.8 east and west facing, is right around 6,800. That's roughly 100% offset. This system is going to produce 100% of what this home used over the past 12 months. Now, if we look at the exact same system, a 7.8, but it's on a south-facing roof, no east, no west, same system size, same number of panels, same type of panel, but significantly larger production, almost a 50% increase in the production. Now, east and west are great. We install them all the time. Preferred is a south-facing. If you have any available south-facing real estate or roof space, we're going to try to use that first. We're going to maximize the coverage on that south-facing section because it's going to produce 50% more energy for the same size system and the same investment. That is going to drastically reduce your return on investment. If you can generate 50% more of the energy in the same year for the same investment, shorter time to get that full investment back. Pretty much everyone can benefit from solar, regardless of if it's south, east, and west. The only ones that are not going to be a good fit for solar whatsoever would be a north-facing roof. We can install on a north-facing roof. The production is so low that it's going to take 20 years for you to get your investment back. So if that's the only available space that you have, we would probably consider a ground-mounted structure. And then I want to jump over to an example of what it looks like when the system actually produces energy. Because these numbers are great, 150%, 100%, that sounds wonderful. It's not so much important how much you're producing and how much you're consuming, but when you're producing it and when you're consuming it. Solar is going to be the most productive in the summer months. And that tends to be how Wisconsin homes use energy. In winter, most homes in Wisconsin are going to have a forced air furnace. They're going to use a gas utility. Their energy use is going to be a little bit lower. When it comes to the summer months, they're going to have their air conditioner cranked. That's going to cause a huge usage of energy. But every home is different. If you have a space heater, that's going to cause a huge spike in the winter months. It's going to be hard to fully offset that energy. We usually have the option to do it, but it comes down to, is it really going to make sense to oversize your system to match your usage in winter? Because in Wisconsin, our net metering policy goes on a monthly basis. Every single month, they're going to look at what did you produce, what did you consume. If you overproduced, like this system would in April, they'll buy that difference back from you. But when they buy it back, they only buy it back at 1/3 the price. They buy it back at wholesale. So it's really important to offset the energy year round, but trying to minimize how much is actually going to get sold back. From a financial standpoint, the best way to size a system is to have it slightly undersized so that you get the full benefit for all of the units of energy that you produce. And then in winter, if you had a bill, you would obviously just be paying the difference for that, but it's a significant reduction to your energy bill. So, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but Deborah has raised her hand, so I'm wondering if she has a question.
Yes.
I do. So when you were talking about the panels being on the roof, and I'm showing them, you're showing them all contiguous. So if you have a dormer or multiple dormers on a roof, do the panels need to be contiguous, or can they be in the free space where the dormers aren't?
They can be in the free space where the dormers aren't. There's a lot of ways that we can go about attaching them. We can actually put multiple orientations into the same grid. So some of them could be in portrait, some of them could be in landscape to maximize the space. Like if you have a limited south-facing roof section and you want to get as many as possible, we can do that. Another benefit of Wisconsin is that we do not have to abide by fire code setbacks. We try to leave space for the firemen to get access to the roof if they needed to, but it's not required by law that we do. So customers would have the option to maximize a south-facing roof plane without having to worry about dead space. In Illinois and in Minnesota, we don't have that as an option. There has to be 3 feet of clearance on all edges, and that really eats into the number of panels that we can put on one given roof section. But Wisconsin, we can go from one side right to the other as long as the customer is okay with the aesthetics of it. We obviously want to ensure that the design is going to look appealing, because when we put it up, they stay in place for about 20-25 years, assuming that your roof is also along the same warranty line. The inverters have 25-year warranty. The racking has a 25-year warranty. All across the board, it's a 25-year warranty. So it's kind of foolish to come out after 10 years and move them. But there's lots of different ways that we can arrange them. We can also have them offset, so they don't have to be completely parallel with each other. They could be slightly offset and stepped to maximize the space. So what we are looking at here on this system is a 7.8, 6,800 kilowatt hours. I'm going to jump over to the south-facing section in a second. But if you look at the production, you can see it's pretty significant in summer and pretty low in winter. And that's due to the pitch of the roof and the fact that it's east and west facing. Now, if we look at the same size system on a south-facing roof, the production in winter is almost twice as what it was on the east or west-facing roof. Not that large of an impact to the summer production, but mainly it's going to be noticed in the winter production. It's going to increase the production year-round, and over the lifetime of the array, equate to a much larger savings. Any questions about the designs and kind of how we look at the offset and how the buyback works? No. Okay, so that's pretty much what net metering is. When we come out, we put the system in place. We have to install additional pieces of equipment. I'll show you what one of those looks like. So this is what a We Energies customer typically looks like. Some of the equipment would go inside normally. This customer did not want us to drill through his foundation, so we put it outside. What we're looking at is the line on the right is the line coming down from his solar array, comes down, it goes through what's called a combiner box. Within that combiner box is the brains of your system. It's the communication device that's communicating the production via satellite or via your Wi-Fi or via an Ethernet cable to the monitoring platform, which you have access to. We also have access to it, and we can help diagnose problems and troubleshoot it. Within this box is also solar breakers. If there's a problem with the grid's about to go down, your solar array can sense that and it's going to automatically shut itself down. That's actually required by law. It's required that the panels shut down directly on top of your roof. It's called modular level rapid shutdown. And that's one of the things that the microinverters is offering you. And then to the left of that is a disconnect. That has to be outside of the home. This combiner box, we prefer to get in the home. Disconnect has to be outside of it. And then over here is a production meter. This is a separate meter, a secondary meter that we have to install. This customer has an overhead utility, above ground utilities. So it's coming in over an overhead line, it's coming down. The production meter gets just put right onto the side of it. We Energies comes out, they pull this plate out, they put a collar on it, and they put a new meter into it. That meter spins one direction and it tracks what you produce. Your consumption meter, which is already on your property right now, that goes the opposite direction and tracks what you consume. At the end of your billing period, they net these two meters. If it's a positive value, like you overproduced energy, they buy it back. If it's a negative value, they charge you the difference. And then let me just pull up a photo of an energy bill and what it looks like, because when you get solar, you get all these additional devices. One of them was the production meter. You get to see what you're producing. Depending on the type of system that we're installing, we have the option to put in a consumption meter that tracks what you consume. So this is actually a We Energies bill from a customer of ours that had solar installed. And what we're looking at is an energy bill of $23, $23.72. And then there's a breakdown of his system. So on the top is a consumption meter, what he's consuming directly from the grid. Right below that is the production meter. On your energy bill, it varies depending on your utility company, but it'll show you what you consume, it'll show you what you produce, and then if you look a little bit closer, you can see the net buyback energy. He overproduced 537 kilowatt hours, so they bought that back from him. Underlined in yellow are meter fees. Those are never going to go away. Those are always going to be there month after month. They're always going to tack that onto your bill. Overproduction in We Energies territory gets applied to meter fees. It'll get applied to your electric meter fee, and then if there's a remainder, it'll get applied to a gas bill. So this customer had he still had a bill, but it all came from his gas. That's not always the case with every utility company. Alliant does not apply it to a meter fee. MG&E does not apply it to a meter fee. It's really just We Energies applies it to meter fees. Another benefit of We Energies is they are a little bit lazy. I don't want to use that term, but they allow us to do what's called virtual meter aggregation. If you have 2 meters on your property, let's say you have a meter on a barn and you have a meter on your home. What we can do is we can combine them virtually. As long as they're being charged the same rate, they're under the same name, they get put under one account. Any production going into the meter for your barn or your home is going to offset the other meter. That's only an option with We Energies. If you were an Alliant customer, we would actually have to physically combine the 2 meters. So we would have to pull one out, we would have to trench it. It varies.
Dustin, there were a couple hands raised again.
Okay.
So Deborah, did you have another question?
Actually,
No, I just need to put my hand down.
Oh, okay. Stacy, go ahead.
I had a question, but I think as you were going through it, I figured it out. And it was about the combiner box. I just couldn't find the raise hand thing soon enough. So, so I'm kind of backtracking, but you had said that It will automatically, the panels will sense when there's something wrong with the grid, so it just stops producing. Can you, is there some way if you can, and maybe you covered this already and I'm sorry if you did, but can you store your own energy somehow and
Yes.
keep that on?
Yes, yeah, so that is an option. What we're looking at right now is only a grid tied system.
Got it.
And the reason behind it is most of our installs that we do, they're going to be in an urban setting. And if the grid goes down, it's usually only down for a short period of time. And the benefit of net metering is that they track what you produce. So in essence, the grid is your battery. Now, let's say you don't live in an urban area, you live in more of a rural setting, and if the grid does go down, it's down for a long period of time. We do have battery options. One of the most common ones would be a Tesla Powerwall. We install those pretty frequently. They're great batteries, but there's better batteries that are on the horizon. One of them would be the N-phase battery. That's the same manufacturer as your inverter. Or the ones that we typically install on systems. And I'd say about 80% of the installers in the nation use that inverter. But you would have to purchase some type of battery backup storage to isolate yourself from the grid. If the grid went down, you'll draw immediately from that battery. Once the battery is fully depleted, if you have a generator and we've installed a transfer switch, it'll then kick on your generator. A lot of the batteries, they have very, very small capacity. They don't have a large storage, and they don't have the longest lifetime, and they have a very high price tag with them. That's one of the problems with batteries today. They're getting cheaper and cheaper year after year. Right now, they are not actually eligible for the tax credit. They only are eligible when they're installed with a solar array. But we are expecting that to go away in about 4 to 5 years. Battery technology improves, capacity increases, price drops. If you see in the automotive industry, every car manufacturer is coming out with an electric vehicle, trying to make them larger, longer lasting, and more affordable. That's where the industry is going to go in the next 5 years is battery.
Excellent. Great, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Were there any more or questions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Keep going.
Okay. So that's pretty much what a typical energy bill looks like in Wisconsin. If you were in a different state like Illinois or Minnesota, they allow for full annual net metering, which means overproduction in summer gets applied to a winter month on a 1-for-1 basis. Here's a couple other photos of some of the additional equipment we put in. So here's a consumption meter. Here's a production meter coming right off the side. Here's a disconnect. Usually that's standard with all the systems we install. And I wanted to show a couple of photos of what they look like today. So this is a system with an all black panel. This is on a metal roof. This is a customer out in Hartford, Wisconsin, pretty large system. They went with an all black option only for aesthetics. Typically in an install like this on a barn, we would go with a higher output panel, what some people would phrase a commercial grade panel, because it's not focusing much on aesthetics, it's focusing on high production, but they had a really strong emphasis for the aesthetics of the array, so they went with an all black option. Here's another all black option. This is, it looks almost fake when you're looking at it in a drone photo, but that's just due to all black panels, black frame, black cells, black backing sheet, and a black racking. And then if you look at this page, this is an example of the monitoring that's available. So this is actually the photo that we were just looking at. This is the production over the last week for that system. This is a larger system. It's 38 microinverters, 38 panels. Each one is 330 watts. But overall, very productive system, fully south-facing, lots of ways that you can look at the energy. It's been a very cloudy week, but you can still see it's putting out a small amount of energy, nothing substantial, but that was September 13th. This is yesterday. And then obviously today was a pretty sunny day in southeastern Wisconsin. Overall, a good day for solar. You get a lot of different readings. You can see the past 7 days. You can see the monthly, the lifetime, the yearly. You can look at a graph depending on how you have it set up. If you are piggybacking off of your Wi-Fi or you have an Ethernet cable connected to it, you would see measurements every 15 minutes. This customer has the cellular option because it's on a detached garage. So he only gets a measurement every 6 hours. It still takes it every 15 minutes, but it only uploads it every 6 hours. And then there's production reports that are available. This is directly from the Enphase website. And this is the contractor portal. So if you're looking at it on a smartphone, it's going to be a little bit more basic, but similar features. There's a calendar view where every day is color coded. Dark shades of blue are less productive. Brighter shades of blue are a little bit more productive. We at Sun Badger Solar actually have a proprietary app where the monitoring is built into the app. It's also a referral program. Friends, family, neighbors that are interested in solar, you can put them in there. We'll reach out to them. It's a project management tool. As you're going through the construction process, you get push notifications. And then it's also a post-construction support. We just doubled the size of our install crew in Wisconsin, and we extended our service branch into all 3 states that we operate in. With the Sun Badger Solar app, you can see the production for your system. If you think you have a problem, we're a phone call away. We can look into it. We can diagnose it, troubleshoot it, or get tech support out to the property to look at that. And it's all in a chat feature right on the handheld app. And then I mentioned that we can do a lot of different types of installs. So I showed you the typical roof, a metal roof. We also install on asphalt shingles. That's not a problem. The only type of roof that we do not install on would be metal slates. They're kind of like faux metal shingles. Those are kind of complicated to install on. We do ground mounted structures. This is a photo of my father next to his. We do flat roof installs. This was a flat roof install we did on Redeemer Lutheran on 19th in Wisconsin last year. They're obviously a church, so they're considered a nonprofit, and their types of installs are completely different from residential. We're currently working with 2 of them at the moment this year. There may be a 3rd joining our install list for 2020 in Wisconsin, but that's a sector that we're really trying to push hard, and we're trying to break into the nonprofit sector. This is a church. The other company I'm working with is a church. Another one's a food bank. And by the end of the year, we'll have a donation program put in place that every solar array that a customer purchases, a donation will be made to a nonprofit of their choice. And by the end of the year, we're hoping to do a donated solar array for a combat vet. That's another thing that we're trying to implement this year in Wisconsin. And just pushing for the community. There's lots of grants. There are a lot of scholarships that are available to high school students coming out of school to get educated in solar. There's a lot of compensation for labor and training to get vets working in the renewable sector. So a lot of that is really what we're focusing on this year and next year in the state of Wisconsin. And I mentioned we're rapidly growing. Last month we had 88 customers join our install list in the 3 states that we work in. So it's just rapidly expanding month after month. Anybody, have any questions at all, or?
Is this the end of your presentation, Dustin?
It could be, yeah. I mean, I can go on. I could go on forever
No,
about
it's
it.
okay, because I do have, I personally have just some general questions, but I don't want to like completely interrupt your flow.
No, no, no.
So,
That's all right. Yeah, no, I'm ready for Q&A.
okay, good. So, and if anyone else does, feel free just to jump in. So what are some basic things? Like, say I'm a homeowner, I'm really, really interested in solar. What are some things for my house I should do to prepare for that solar? Like, should I start thinking about increasing my energy efficiency at home and reducing my usage? Are there roof considerations, insurance considerations?
Yep. Good question. So first and foremost, you'll want to look at your home's energy use, see or try to find areas that could use improvement. We always recommend reduce before you produce. That's gonna be how you're gonna get the most benefit from your solar array. If you put solar on your home and you continue living your life day to day, chances are we could probably offset it, but it may. There's small things that can be done on a daily basis to improve your energy efficiency. If you haven't already switched out the lights to energy efficient LED lights, definitely do that. That's going to be the first step. Also, there's ways to reduce, well, it's more for gas, but if you had an electric boiler, there's ways to lower the temperature on the electric boiler. That's going to result in a pretty large savings. Insulating your hot water pipes, lots of different ways to, let's say, insulation in your attic. And hail damage is going to be something that you're going to want to look into as well. I mentioned before that you want to make sure your roof has a similar warranty to all the products that we're going to put on it when we come out and put solar up. And if your roof is coming on the end of its warranty, 5 or 7 years left on it, I recommend replacing the roof before you put solar up. And if you haven't already talked to a roofer, I would reach out to one and see if there's the possibility of putting in an insurance claim if you haven't had your roof looked at for some time. That's going to be the main consideration. How old's your roof? How many layers of shingles do you have on the roof today? And also the kind of structure that we're installing it on. If it's going onto a barn or an outbuilding, those sometimes need to be reinforced. So if you have those general questions and concerns, reach out to a company like us. That's what we do on a daily basis. We have to take structural analysis of every home that we install on in Madison. It's not always required in every city, but if we feel that there might be an issue, we are going to take a structural analysis of the roof, and it's not uncommon for them to have to be reinforced. Next thing would be looking at how do you want to go about getting the funds for the project. I mentioned we have really, really good loans that are available. If you're going to go the route of a loan, you're going to want to make sure that the system is going to offset all of your energy year round or very close to it so that you're not paying a loan payment and still paying a portion of an energy bill. If you were to pay cash, which we have a lot of cash paying customers, you want to look at, you're going to be highly focused on the return for your investment. Typically, those kind of customers are going to have it undersized so they get the best benefit for all the energy they produce. But it varies from person to person, utility company to utility company. The first thing I would recommend is go on some of the websites. Solar Reviews is a great website. Energy Sage is another really good website. It's more of an informative website. And do a little bit of research about solar in your state. And then the next step would be to reach out to a certified installer in your area. And there's lots of them. There's companies like SunBadger, regional developers in multiple states. There's national companies that are maybe on the other side of the country that may not know the in and outs of your utility company. And then there's smaller kind of mom and pop electrical contractors getting into the industry. They usually can offer a lower price, but they don't have the support that you would need post-construction. So do your due diligence on whatever company you're talking with, and also what they're offering you. Some companies will not tell you what kind of panel. They won't tell you what type of inverter. Those are all very important details that you're going to want to look into and definitely research before you go forward with the project.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Amy had a question. How much of an output reduction does a low pitch have on a south-facing roof?
It impacts it, but it's not too significant. In winter is really when you're going to see it. So a slight pitch like that, if it's 10 or 15 degrees compared to a 30-degree pitch, there might be a 15% difference in production, but it's mainly going to be noticed in winter. When the sun dips in the sky, slighter pitch is going to produce much less energy, but then also snow. As the snow accumulates on a roof that has a really slight pitch, it takes longer for it to melt off. And that's usually where the impact is going to come from.
All right, so you mentioned snow. Do people have to get up there and clear the snow off of solar panels?
No. So the only time that you would ever want to clear snow off would be if you had a ground mounted structure. And even then it's not required. We always recommend just let the snow melt off naturally. The worst case would be going on top of your roof and obviously falling off. That would be horrible. But another thing that is pretty common is people trying to remove the snow and causing damage to the panels. Either whatever piece of equipment they're using catches onto the frame, starts to fray the frame. That's not going to be covered by the product warranty. Just letting the snow sit, melt off naturally is going to be the best route. The only time it takes a long time to melt would be a slight pitch, east and west. Slight pitches, east and west take a while to melt. Almost all the south-facing ones will melt off within 2 to 3 days, or the first sunny day that we get. And then last winter during the polar vortex was a pretty bad ice storm, and then right after that there was a lot of snow that covered the panels. That took longer to melt, but our northernmost array was cleared within 5 days.
Oh, okay. Does homeowners insurance typically cover solar panels, like if there's hail damage or anything like that?
They will, but it depends on your homeowner's insurance policy. When you go forward with a project in Wisconsin, to do the interconnection application, we need to submit a certificate of your homeowner's insurance. You want to make sure that you have $300,000 personal liability. That is required for most of the residential installs. If you go above 20 kilowatts, you need $1 million insurance policy. But it is something that you do want to talk with your insurance agent about. Mention that you are installing solar and inquire about your coverage to make sure that it is covered.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, I just keep asking questions. All of you should just jump in if you have questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep asking. So how often do solar panels get damaged? Like I saw one of your slides said they're up to an inch hail, their warranty, or their explain, just you can talk.
Yeah, so their warranty, the product warranty, they can withstand an inch-sized hail propelled at 60-mile-an-hour wind. It's not common that they're actually damaged. Usually what we see in a hailstorm is damage to the shingles. Maybe the tempered glass on one panel or two panels might crack, but it may or may not affect the production of the actual panel. We will have it replaced, but you will be putting in a claim through your homeowner's insurance. But we've seen it a lot where hailstorm comes through, rips shingles off of your roof, minimal damage to the panels, but the insurance company covers our bill to come out and remove the panels. Roofer comes out, repairs the work, and we reapply our panels after the fact. And all you're paying is obviously your deductible for that type of situation. And it varies from insurance company to insurance company. Sometimes they pay per panel. or sometimes they pay one lump sum for the entire all-encompassing labor.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, so physical damage is pretty rare with panels. It's more common with ground mounts, ground mounted structures, because they're closer to the ground. They're more susceptible to getting damaged. But trees falling on it, lightning strike, a really aggressive hailstorm, those can damage it, and they'll be under your homeowner's insurance. The bigger problem is the degradation of the panels. They will all degrade slowly over time, and it varies, and it's usually at a fixed amount. So all of the panels that we offer come with a 25-year performance guarantee, stating that they will only degrade a certain amount year after year, and at 25 years, they're guaranteed to put out a certain amount of energy. Some of the value panels that we have, they'll be at 80%. Some will be at 85%. Some of the highest efficiency panels we offer are going to be at 90.8%. So very low degradation. 25 years from now, still putting out 90% of the energy. If you bought a solar panel 25 years ago, today it would be putting out probably like 10% of what it was day one. That's really where the improvements are coming into play, is with the soldering, the manufacturing process, and reducing that degradation.
Okay.
So that leads me to ask a question, and that is there any ability to recycle these solar panels?
Good question. There is. It is extremely expensive today to do it right now. That being said, the amount of solar panels that are being installed today, in 20 years, in 10 years, in 15 years, they're all going to degrade at different amounts. I can almost guarantee you that there will be a company like a Habitat for Humanity that purchases or offers some type of incentive to take degraded panels, test them, and sell them at whatever output they are being tested at. But today, it's a very costly thing to actually recycle them. In order to do so, you have to separate all of the components. You have to take the framing. That's obviously aluminum. That gets recycled like normal. The silicon wafers would get melted down and reprocessed. The soldering, like the silver and all of the heavy metals that are used in the actual manufacturing, those would get stripped and recycled. But it's a long process, and it takes quite some time and a lot of effort.
So what currently happens then if you're not recycling them? Do they end up landfilled? Are they part of e-waste, regulations?
Yeah, so, well, right now there's, that's not a problem that's really facing the industry yet, just because we've never installed as large a volume as we do today over the past 3 or 4 years. So we haven't had to deal with that situation quite yet. Right now, what they do is they repurpose them in different ways. So there's companies that will turn them into business cards. There's companies that'll turn them into coasters. There's companies that'll turn them into cornhole sets. There's lots of different things that they can use for it, just to have the nostalgia of a solar panel being your cornhole set or your business card if you're a solar salesman. But in the future, it's almost positive that there will be like a Habitat for Humanity,
Sure.
or the manufacturing process will get better and the recycling process will get better. When Tesla's first started producing electric vehicles, the batteries that are used in Teslas were not able to get recycled. Nowadays, there are actual companies out there that are recycling them, repairing them, and getting them back.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Dustin? Okay. Well, Dustin, I want to thank you so much for being with us tonight and all of your information. I'm going to send out an email to everybody. Sun Badger has very generously and graciously offered the Waukesha County Green Team, or they're donating to the Waukesha County Green Team. If anyone goes through our link and requests a solar energy evaluation. So there certainly is no expectation that any of you do that. But if you're curious to get a evaluation of your own home, you're welcome to go through that link, and a donation will be made to the Green Team. Thank you very much, Dustin.
Yeah, not a problem.
And it looked like Stacy raised her hand, but then maybe put it down again. Did you have a question, Stacy?
No, I didn't have a question. I'm sorry. I was just trying to find the icon for thumbs up.
Oh,
excellent.
yay.
Thank you, Dustin. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem. Thanks for having me. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, this was excellent. Your information was really good. It flowed with your pictures, the graphics. That was very, very good to see all that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And hopefully I'll be joining maybe another discussion in the future about, I don't know if it's something that we could set up, how it applies to different sectors. So nonprofits, I mentioned, that's one that we're really, really interested in working with. And it's completely different type of animal. So there's always so much to learn about solar. It's ever changing. And I'm just glad I was able to educate a few of you on
very cool.
today.
So, you know what, I did have one last question, and that is, are you doing any work with municipalities or businesses?
Municipalities, not so much, but businesses, yes. So we are breaking into the commercial sector, trying to break into the utility-sized installs. It varies from company to company how solar is going to affect your business, but there is always going to be a benefit. For businesses, they still get a tax credit, 26%. Usually their state rebate is significantly larger. So residential properties are at 500, a business might be at 4,000 to 5,000. And then they can also depreciate a portion of the system cost as a business expense. And then when you're looking at the actual savings, solar panels generate energy. You don't have to buy the energy. But there's another way that it impacts your energy bill if you're a business, and it's called a demand charge. It'll reduce your demand charge, which can equate to a larger savings than the actual value of energy that you produced. So it's very different than residential, but we also do that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a good night. I will put Dustin's contact information in the email to you all. So if you have specific solar questions, you can reach out to him, as well as that link. And if you have questions about the Waukesha County Green Team, you can always reach out to me. So, yep. All right. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for putting this together. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.